Okay, hey 6-4. So I'm going to be showing you guys a video on how to play How Close to 200. Some of you would have played this game already in elementary, so this should just be review. But basically, this is just a game that works on our multiplication. It helps us visualize that when we multiply two numbers, we are just actually figuring out the area of a rectangle. Okay, so we call those arrays sometimes. So what you're going to do is, this is a partner game. And you're each going to have a board that looks something like this. I don't have the board at home, so I just had to use graph paper, but it's going to have 200 grid squares on it, okay? And then it's going to have some space to write some multiplication sentences at the bottom. So what you're going to do is, in your partner group, you're going to take turns rolling two six-sided die, okay? So if, we'll say this is partner one. I don't have dice here, but I would roll 2 dice, and whatever I roll, I'm going to be representing that as a rectangle. So let's say that I rolled a 2 and a 3. On my grid, anywhere that I want, I'm going to draw a 2 by 3 rectangle, okay? So what that means is 2 squares by 3 squares, okay? And you finish your rectangle off, 2 by 3. So what this is showing, guys, is that 2 times 3 equals 6, because if I were to shade in the area here, I would have 6 shaded in. Your other option, if you didn't want to draw your rectangle that way, would be to draw your rectangle this way, okay? But every single shape that you draw on this grid has to be a square or a rectangle. So you don't draw any of these weird Tetris pieces. You're always going to end up with a rectangle or a square. You end up with a square if you roll 2 of the same number. So if you roll 4 times 4, you're going to have a square, okay? But every other combination is going to be a rectangle. So you either have 2 choices for how you draw it if it's a rectangle. This way, vertical or horizontal, okay? And so all the time when we play this game, students will say, well, I don't know what 6 times 6 is. And I'll say, well, that's the point. When you draw 6 by 6 and then you start shading in, however many squares you shade in is actually the answer. Okay, so what you would do is you would choose whichever one you wanted. So I'm going to choose vertical. You don't get to do both. Okay, so if this is my turn, I would choose to do vertical this way. And then on the inside, you need to write the sentence. So you write 2 times 3 equals 6. Then what we usually do is we take a crayon or a pencil crayon and we just shade that in. Okay? All right, and try to outline your rectangle fairly dark. Otherwise, it ends up just looking like a big blob of shadedness at the end, and we need to be able to see your individual rectangles. So then you write 2 times 3 equals 6 at the bottom. You're eventually going to run out of these multiplication sentence like strips. So you're gonna have to roll more than probably what I gave you. So if you run out, you can just write them on the back or on a different piece of paper. Okay, so then it would be this partner's turn. So this time, let's say that I rolled 2 times 6. Actually, not 2. Let's go 4 times 6. Okay, so again, I have 2 choices. I can either draw a rectangle that's 4 down and 6 across like this, or I can do 6 down and 4 across. Okay, so these are my 2 choices. Again, I can put them anywhere on the grid that I want to. The purpose of this game, guys, I should have said this from the beginning, is the partner that ends up winning is the partner that can get all of their squares shaded in at the end, or as close to the 200 squares as possible. So there's a little bit of strategy here in where you draw your rectangles, because if you leave a bunch of kind of gaps, like little gaps in between your rectangles, it means that when you get near the end of the game, you're gonna have to roll a lot of like 1 times 1s or 1 times 2. So you kind of want to group your rectangles so that you're not leaving a bunch of weird gaps. Okay, so that's just a bit of strategy for the game. Okay, back to this. So let's just say for this round, I'm going to choose the horizontal rectangle this time. So again, you don't get to draw both, but I'm just showing you the 2 options. So again, I've drawn my rectangle, and I'm going to write 4 times 6 on the inside. Now, if you don't know what 4 times 6 is, this is where you use your visual to help you. So you'd start skip counting. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Okay, so it equals 24. So the answer is always going to be the area, the amount of squares that you shade in. That's always the answer to your multiplication. Okay, so again, this partner would shade in their rectangle. It's nice and dark how it's outlined. And then you're gonna write 4 times 6 equals 24 at the bottom. Okay, so again, you keep going back, partner 1, partner 2, etc. Trying to get as much of your grid shaded in as possible. So of course, in this game, there's a little bit of luck probability, because if you roll big numbers, you're gonna get more of your grid shaded in. But just be careful how you are, how you're positioning your rectangles so that you don't leave a bunch of weird gaps that at the end are going to be hard to get shaded in. Okay, so that is how close to 200. You're going to be in partners. You're going to have your masks on the whole time. You're going to each have your own grid, a pencil crayon or a crayon, and your 2 dice that should be in the Ziploc bag that's in your bin. Okay, have fun.